What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the channel. In this box, I have the new Umbro Velocita Matrix Pro, a new addition to the Umbro lineup that goes into the speed boot category. Now let's hop straight into the unboxing. You get a really nice Umbro logoing here on the top, Umbro logos on the other three sides, and then of course here is your size guide. Now one thing that I want you to notice here, first of all, US 9, UK 8, Euro 42.5, and a 27 centimeters, the Umbro Velocita Matrix Pro in firm ground. The thing that I want you to notice though is right here. This boot is Dragonfire white and black, which is an awesome way to name your football boots. And I'm actually quite excited to see what these look like. Here we go. Ooh, very cool. Really interesting. So the Pro Weave upper that's on this particular football boot has gone through a couple different iterations. On camera, hopefully you can see the color grade sometimes can be tricky with bright colors like this, but it's like a red-orange colorway, and it's actually kind of nice with a huge Umbro logo you can see in the black with this like really interesting patterning to it, which is very cool as well. Some interesting stud pattern choices there, which I'm excited to jump into, but the overall shape and stuff actually looks pretty good for a speed boot. So let's get into it. Unfortunately, you don't get a string bag or anything there, so that's it for what's in the box, but no problems. We'll get that out of the way. Put this down right there and show you guys what they look like. I'm actually gonna take this little cardboard piece out as well as we jump into it. The other cool detail I'm noticing in terms of the patterning is you can see that Umbro is in the pattern as well. So UMBRO, and then of course the Umbro logo. Very cool. It's a nice design. It's very, I don't want to say it's loud, but it does definitely stand out compared to other speed boots in the market. Let's get into some of the tech specs of this Umbro Velocita Matrix Pro. So as I said before, this is a Dragonfire colorway with the white and black. The white really is just the tips of the studs. There's no other white in the boot, and then obviously the black patterning there. So this is, we're going to talk first about the outsole. So this is what they call their Propulsion Plus speed outsole with a dual density Pebax and RNU material. So that's, the Pebax material is this black material you see here. It's a pretty stiff material, nice amount of snapback actually. Definitely a little bit bendy here, which is actually fine. I find that as long as it doesn't bend through this area here, you actually get a decent amount of snapback. And then of course going the other direction, it's nice and stiff. This right here is their support spin frame, or their how do you say, the spine, I guess, of the football boot, and that's got a pretty decent, it's a little bit flexible, but we'll see how they perform on pitch and on feet if I do feel any sort of issues with that. Now, it is quite a lightweight boot, so the fact that they did have some of the cutouts and the sole plate does feel pretty thin and pretty focused on weight saving is actually might be a really, really good thing just in general. So that's really nice. This is a slightly longer stud configuration than normal with some multi-directional studs. So you've got chevron studs here on all of the lateral side, and then on the medial side you have a combination of course, the 3 chevron studs here. You've got a bladed stud in this area and then a conical stud here right where that pivot point happens. So as you put your foot into the ground and you're pivoting, they've given you one conical stud here. Now, I am excited to try these on feet and on pitch, I guess, more specifically, so that can we actually tell the difference between something like this, and if this is that revolutionary, why haven't other brands that have somewhat similar traction patterns to this, like a Furon, for example, that's got very similar chevron studs all over. The only thing that I'm interested by the other thing I'm interested by as well is whether or not the length of these studs are going to be suitable for AG and FG surfaces, because as far as I know, I haven't seen Umbro produce an AG model of this boot yet, but we will see kind of how that works out. One of the things I'm also kind of feeling with this upper, which is their one-piece Pro Weave upper. It's a pretty impressive upper. It's got a little bit of softness to it. I wouldn't say it's overly soft, which is good because this does have an internal support frame inside the boot, very similar to a lot of other pairs of football boots. It's like a suede cage that basically sits from there all the way up to here that kind of has this crisscross pattern. You guys will probably see with the internal probe lens camera what that looks like, but it's quite thin on the sides, and then it's got a really interesting kind of I guess a little bit more robust feeling like internal structure on the edges of where the boot sits flush with the sole plate. Now, what that might do, from a practical standpoint, I'm guessing that it's going to add just a little bit of extra lockdown, which is really nice. But this Pro Weave upper, which is like a textile-based mesh material, feels actually quite soft, and I think this actually, with the shape, it's a little bit of a wider and flatter shape, a little more anatomical in the forefoot here especially. I imagine these are actually going to be okay for wide feet. I have high hopes for these as far as the fit and the comfort goes. I think these actually might be pretty decent as well. One of the other things that they have mentioned in their marketing materials is this is a part of Umbro's commitment to sustainability. So the outsole uses partially bio-based materials. We don't know actually what percentage is or what even they're made out of, but supposedly they're partially bio-based materials. And then the Pro Weave upper is 85% recycled content, which is really cool. So from a just general design perspective, I actually think they look pretty decent. The heel is a little on the high end, so especially with, it is a little bit floppy, so I don't think it's going to affect you too much, but the internal heel padding with a little bit of that synthetic stippling, so you can kind of see the light bouncing off of it there. Let's see if I can give you a better, there you go. So like you can kind of see it here. So there's a little bit of stippling with a pretty reasonable amount of heel padding. I don't expect these to be the most comfortable boots in the world because they are very, very lightweight, and they do feel like they're gonna feel pretty much effortless on feet. Now, the previous Velocita that I reviewed had that kind of B-wing texturing to it. It had like the pattern of a B-wing. I was not a fan of those boots, particularly because they fit so tightly. There was no stretch to the upper. It was a cool concept, but the sole plate you could basically bend in half, and it just wasn't really up to par as far as the quality goes. This feels like a completely different level, particularly because of some of the little aspects they've added to the boot. And I am curious to know whether this Pro Weave upper will stretch and mold well to your feet. What this actually reminds me a lot of, obviously the color is similar now that I realize it, was a pair of orange Ultra 1.1s. And that upper, and I'm trying to remember what the name of that upper was, but that upper was like it was technically a knit material, but it was more of a weave as opposed to like a stretchy knit. It was like a textile-based upper, but it wasn't stretchy, and this reminds me a lot of that upper. The shape of the boot obviously is a little bit different on these, but I really liked those Ultra 1.1s and 1.2s, to be fair. It was basically the same boot, and this reminds me a lot of those football boots. So I'm hopeful that with the lightweight, slightly wider and kind of more open toe box, at least from the looks of it, definitely similar to other boots on the market, that this actually has a very similar shape to the Puma, what was it called? Not the Evo Powers, but it has a very similar construction. Gosh, I'm completely drawing a blank here. I'll think of it. Anyway, but it's got a very similar shape to a pair of Puma football boots that I really enjoyed back in the day. And so I'm really excited to actually try these on feet and see what they're like. Umbro in the past has been sort of hit or miss with their football boots. Their Speciale is obviously a classic. Lots of people really love that boot. People have been wearing it for years and years and years. I recently reviewed the goat leather edition, which is the all white with the black Umbro logo on the side, as opposed to the normal K leather version, which is the other way around. And those are super comfortable. But other than that boot, Umbro hasn't come out with a lot of stuff recently that's super wow factor. These Velocita Matrix Pro feel like they're going to be a little bit on that wow factor so long as they fit really well because of how lightweight they are. And I think this upper, once you break it in, might be super, super soft. I don't know yet because I haven't actually tried these on, but I am excited to see what these have in store as far as what they feel like on feet. So without further ado, guys, let's hop into the on feet portion of the video. We'll talk sizing. Keep in mind, these are my usual size 9 US, and we'll see how sizing, fit, width, all that stuff is. Let's hop into it. All right, fam, out in the backyard with the Umbro Velocita Matrix Pro in firm ground. I'm actually quite excited about these. So without further ado, guys, let's get these on feet. They look pretty nice out in the sunshine. It's like a muted, kind of beautiful crimson, red, orange colorway. Very nice. The design of this boot is actually not bad, in my opinion. I have seen a dark blue, like a navy colorway with yellow accents, which is cool as well, but I think I prefer this one, and I'm sure they will come out with other boots down the line. Here we go. Ooh, yeah, right on. Okay. Dang, much better than previous generation Velocitas, in my opinion. There's a little bit of bunch up in the instep, which I'll show you guys in just a second. But overall, kind of as predicted, given the shape of them, they actually fit pretty well. There's a little bit of where my foot kind of bulges out right here. That's where the widest part of my foot is. That's to be expected. But overall, wow. Okay. Dang, I'm actually quite impressed by these from a fit perspective. The heel seems to be pretty decent as well. Better than the Toco, that's for sure. Which is annoying because if they had put this heel area on the Toco 4 Pro, I reckon those would be a very, very good leather football boot. The leather quality on those is awesome, but obviously the heel really struggles. Getting your foot into these is actually a little bit of a struggle as well because this one-piece Pro Weave upper doesn't stretch a ton, so it's actually quite difficult to get my foot. There we go. But once it's in, the Pro Weave upper actually wraps your foot quite decently. That's pretty good. Wow, I'm genuinely surprised because Umbro synthetics tend not to be the highest quality. So I don't know. I really kind of enjoy these. Goodness. Okay, here we go. Let's get those out. And there you go. Full look on feet. Little floppy there. Oh, this one went as well. There you go. So full look at the Umbro Velocita. That little tongue thing is going to fold down, it looks like, pretty much every time. But here you go. What they look like on feet. They're actually pretty comfortable. I'm super surprised. Usually I feel like boots like this that don't have a ton of stretch and they're quite structured, they're very lightweight on feet. They feel super, super light. Sole plate feels pretty decent. I don't have any stud pressure. Like if I move back and forth, there's no stud pressure except for that maybe right there. So like maybe these two studs are a little bit aggressive, but I'm also on like backyard synthetic, of course, so it's not quite the same. The heel area does come up quite a bit, but it doesn't feel like it impedes me at all from a lockdown sensation perspective. I do feel pretty secure in the heel area of these boots, which is nice. Doing this kind of movement, bouncing up and down, is definitely not the case with the Toco 4 Pro or the Speciale. So unfortunately, this one, or I guess fortunately for this one, takes the cake as far as the comfort of the heel area. Now, the upper does feel pretty nice. As you can see, I can wiggle my toes decently well. There is a reasonable amount of width and sort of very anatomical structured toe box area. You can see kind of where, from this angle, like where that bone pops out, but this Pro Weave upper actually does stretch. As I mentioned in the unboxing portion of the video, there's like an interesting, and you can see kind of the extra material right there, but that's not going to affect play at all. There is like a more structured piece about that thick that go just as far as like how high it is, that height, all the way around the upper. But on this side, right where my bone sticks out, this is actually a non-structured area right here. that still has the internal cage, but it does feel a little bit more flexible and stretchy. So as you can see, I can wiggle my toe pretty much no problem. And it feels really, really nice. So here's an overall look at the boots. I'm honestly pretty impressed by these. Like, they're not hurting my feet right now. And for a boot like this that tends to be a little bit more structured, similar to an F50 Elite or something like that. I realize that they're completely different materials, but from a speed boot perspective, when you have a material that isn't leather or isn't knit, which naturally will like flex and stretch to your foot shape, a boot like this that's more of a structured weave doesn't really have that same stretch. And so for it to fit like this straight out of the box is actually quite impressive. Now, touch on the ball with, of course, the Mitre Ultimax Pro, which you can find down in the description box below for 10% off. Touch is actually really good. It's got kind of that, like, again, it's very similar to that Ultra 1.1 and 1.2 with the, it's not like a structured knit material where it stretches and molds like a sock. This is more like a really well-structured sock that's not going to move around. It's more of like a shoe sock, I guess, if you can say that. But I actually really like the touch on the ball. It feels very connected, very barefoot, honestly, like super, super thin upper. So you get really good touch and feel for the ball, regardless of kind of where you are striking the ball, particularly on that laces when you're juggling. Underfoot feel of the ball, like just kind of getting a sense of what it's going to be like. I don't think it's going to be anything out of this world, but I also think the sole plate has a decent amount of flexibility and snap to it, which is actually quite nice. The P-backs area with the black actually does quite a nice job of having, like, feeling at least like I've got good spring off and a little bit of extra responsiveness, which is always really nice. So overall as a package, I'm actually quite impressed by these, to be honest. They fit pretty well, and true to size, 9 US, toe comes up right about to there. So I've got a little bit of extra room, but that's totally fine. I wouldn't go down half a size or up half a size because otherwise it's going to be too small or too big. But these actually fit pretty well. I'm really impressed. And they feel super lightweight. So what I'll probably do for the play test of these is I'll take these out to a grass pitch, because I don't think I want to play with this aggressive of a stud pattern on AG, particularly because it's not really about the shape of the studs so much as the length. And the length of the studs is what really gets you, because then it doesn't grip into the ground. So you either start skating around, or they're long enough where they grip in and they don't let go. And that's an issue when you're coming up to, a cone or whatever, and you pivot and there's no pivot power because the studs have gone too deep into the ground and you can't get enough pivot. Whereas on a natural grass pitch, you're pivoting and you're able to turn a little bit and then push off. So that's kind of gonna wrap up today's video of the Velocita Matrix Pro. I'm pretty impressed by these boots, to be honest. Like, these are a bit of a dark horse for me, simply because I had zero expectations based on how much I didn't really like the previous generation of the Velocita. Now, should you buy these over some other boots? Potentially, especially if you have a little bit of a wider foot. These actually might fit you really, really well. And from a feeling perspective on feet, they actually feel quite a bit lighter than a lot of other stuff on the market. And just based on like in-hand weight, the feeling is very light and it's very airy, and it's very much, it feels at least lighter than like an F50 and stuff. So that's gonna wrap up today's review for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed that video of the Velocita Matrix Pro in FG. I'll give you guys one more quick look at the boots. They do look pretty nice, to be honest. I like this Dragon Fire colorway. Also, such a sick name. Umbro, well done. That's awesome. I love when people name their boots, like, really, they have a color that they sort of make up and they produce it, and then they're like, ooh, what should we call this? And some person in Umbro was like, I think we should call it Dragon Fire. And people were like, oh yeah. I think that's dope. So more creative names for colors would be ideal. And from a design perspective, I like the Umbro on the inside, the Umbro logo on the outside. They're simple. They kind of pop a little bit. They're different. So, hey, cool addition to the speed boot market. Zero complaints. They fit really, really well. I have no hot spots right now, which is awesome. Yeah, a little bit of tightness on the outside, but it doesn't hurt. So that's always a positive thing. So hope you guys enjoyed that video. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you go down in the description box below for 10% off the Mitre footballs. They're absolutely amazing. I love them. That's why I reached out to the company to do a partnership, and they sponsor the women's and men's A-League here in Australia, as well as the FA Cup and all that stuff. So very, very cool. So down in the description box below, code note 10 for 10% off your Mitre order. As always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.